Yeah, and I think this is a great time. We've talked a lot, and you've mentioned it a lot about branding, right? And I even picked out a few words from your, what you were saying earlier, like you creating your own vlogs, right, and stuff like that, and really showcasing it. So, when it comes to building a brand, honestly, your team does a really great job at it and connecting and uniting and activating your community. And the overall presence that Everai family has on Twitter, for example, is honestly awesome and really enhances your social presence. So I wanted to know, is there anything specific that has helped you achieve this great social media presence? I know beforehand you used to have, a lot of time creating videos and content on YouTube and stuff, and you kind of transition that into, well, what you're doing with Everai. And so, for all the project founders that are going to be listening or are listening right now, I think this is really crucial because I think personal branding and just branding in general is very important in the early stages of any NFT project.
Oh yeah, it's a great point, and this might sound a little cringe, but we have a phrase within the team, and I don't know if Super Sogan's here, but I see you in the audience as well. Like all of us came from whether it became from streaming world, or it became from YouTubing, but kind of like there's this phrase that we always say, and it's just ABCs. It's always be contenting. And I think we used to have a lot more at the beginning, but again, like it bring back to like, I was only one person, when we started, and our team we started with four people into six, and now we're up to we're pushing 16 people. And a lot of that is going to enable us to be contenting a lot more. Like, I don't know if you saw like the Lisbon vlog, going to Paris on Sunday. We're gonna be doing a lot of vlogging there, and it's just a lot of what I think, as well. It's personal presence and like leading by example in a way. But also like there's just points in the community where like none of us could have expected the amount of dude. Like there was one point where like I couldn't go one post without seeing an Everai post, and I loved it. Right, like right after we went with the Forever I hashtags, but it's also on the team to give the community activations that they could play off of, right? At the beginning, when we had the mint, it wasn't easy, but this was everything was about duo, right? Everything was about your forever eye, right? Finding your forever eye, playing on that. But as months go on, there's only so much content the community could post about one thing, right? And that's where I think it's also on the team to give more, right? And that's why I'm excited for the Origin program, because essentially it gives us a lot more storylines to explore. Therefore, a lot for the community to imagine, to create from, to post about, right? And also from my end, right, it gives me a lot to play on, and it gives me a lot more imagination, right? And 'cause that's where I think like the root of creativity comes from, right? And that's always been for me, the beauty of Everai, right, is that we are imagining and we are creating this dream sci-fi world. And if the team doesn't output content for the community to imagine with and to create from, right, it's obviously gonna be a lot more quiet. And I think we've seen that a little bit in the last few months, but also, from the team's perspective, and what I miss the most as well are those personal vlogs, is peeling back that layer. So, I think it took a while to get organized, and it took a while to really set up that foundation of the next phase. But as we enter this new cycle, um, I'm excited to just see everything light up again on Twitter. And honestly, for me as well, personally, like I've been pretty quiet. It was just hard bandwidth wise, to spend out, my days before really it was just really spent on Twitter and Discord, But now it's like I feel like, I'm excited to bring that back and really just start posting, doing a lot more spaces. I personally just like hanging out like this and just chatting with you all, and doing a lot more of this because I think, as your question was, advice to other founders is really like, lead by example, right? If you want to see more of the community in spaces, host spaces yourself. If you want to see more of the community posts, post yourself as well, right? I can't expect people to do things and want people to do things if you're not doing that yourself as well. And I think that stems from the team, that stems from the founding level. And personally, again, like I've just been quiet, not because I wanted to, it's just because like some days I was just like, oh my God, this is way too many meetings today. I'm like kind of burnt, you know? But like at the point where, and it's a conscious decision for me as well, and to the team where it's just like, okay, like now we're ready. You know, we have this whole we have 9 storylines that we're ready to explore that lead us to the next chapter of our whole universe together, you know, and like we're all set, we're all good to go, ready to launch the product. And I'm like, that's why I said they let on the leak out of the cage. I'm like, all right, can I go out now? Can I go be me on Twitter? Can I go leak around? Can I just go hang out, be degenerate on spaces? You know, can we host anime nights? And it's just like, you know, bring and again, I think that brings us back to our roots, right? So, and again, I think it's, you know, to any other advice I would give as well to other founders is like you have to be authentically you, right? Don't become this version of you that you project on social media, and that to me is the biggest thing that I'm really grateful from learning from like the YouTube and streamer worlds, right? It's like you would see people in person be completely different than they are, you know, online, and to me that was always kind of not the vibe I ever wanted personally, right? It may work for some people, people may like that, but for me personally, you know, I'm always just being me, right? And the version of me that I'm having the most fun with, right? And I think that from a project founder level is a lot of the community that you will attract as well, right? And a lot of people with similar interests, a similar vibe, right? And just never stop being you if I were to give advice to people, right? Because you know the space could change people, money could change people, you know, clout can change people, but you know at the end of the day, if you stay true to who you are, you know you won't lose yourself. What I always say, you won't get lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Dude, I
That's
love that. Yeah, and it's really cool because you're seeing like the huge transition already. Like, I mean, TikTok took the storm with user generated content and really gave the power to people to create their own content. Really, well, also the algorithm blew that up, but now you're seeing Meta transition into that, and a bunch of other platforms now, and you're kind of creating your own, basically your own system of user generated content of your own within your own community, which is amazing. And again, not many not many projects out there are doing what you're doing right now in that sense, which is amazing because, like you said, it can be really hard. And you know, I've when we advise some projects and the founders for their NFT projects, right? Like that's one thing that we kind of tell them at times too is, and you said it yourself, is like looking to post on a consistent basis because if you want to do something you know, if you want to see your community do something, you do it first, right? You be that first mover. You start to step up and bring it on. And obviously, it can be hard. You know, even in this space, there's so much craziness going on. But it's really important, you know, building that genuine connection, especially at a time now where the market is really crazy and a lot of people are drained from the last, I don't even know, like last year or so, of just all this craziness. It really allows you to establish that trust and that actual real connection with the people all the way across the world, like for the first time ever, right? Like everyone here right now, we're all behind a screen, and you know, the voice aspect does a lot, but really seeing that person create content and bring themselves out there, build up their personal brand, and become that thought leader and tell you the ups and downs and stuff. It goes a long way, right? Like that 1% every day, it adds up exponentially. So honestly, kudos to you and taking the effort and time. And I'm really excited to see more vlogs and stuff once you start to get in the hang of things. And hopefully, you're not going to be too bombarded with work. But I don't doubt it. I mean, this space is really it's really hard not to. But
yeah.
yeah.
That's also some, yeah, you touched on such a good point there, man, where it's just like, this is also something for me that I learned. It's like, even though I've been in the space for a while, I was more of a trader, right? But joining it from like building perspective, it moves so fast and you can never predict how fast it moves. And I think that's where it gets hard when you're building, you know, content creation, right? And a lot of, you know, the artists, for example, right? Um, they're used to building animes and working on things that take years. You know what I mean? But the NFT space, year is like a century. You know what I mean? So it's really about like finding ways, and that's where I think like little things like blogs or spaces, like you know, go a long way because what I always say, and then coming from the content world, is like you're always working towards your tentpole pieces of content, right? Like your big trailers, your big animations, your big activations. But the hard part about the space, from a founding level, is how do you create content in between? It's because you're not always going to have that. Those cycles of building that. I mean, even if you take a look at, the Everai trailer, right? That Everai trailer was 15 seconds. It took 6 months. That was like one of the first things we activated, when we started the company, right? And that was a 15-second animation. So it's really like about that perspective, like having a mix of content, and that's where we're really shifting towards as well, because like you said, like we're still learning too. It's not that we know like the best way, and a lot of what we're doing is adapting to the current times, and we're like, oh my god, like yeah, like we can't wait for these tentpole pieces of content, right? So like how do we create engaging content in between, and right, and that's why I like little things like vlogs, bringing events back, anime nights back, right? Things like the Origin program, right? And creating content around that, and empowering user generated content, right? And I think that's where it gets that's also something that I wish we could do better of too, right? It's like I'm not able to see everything on Twitter, right? I'm sure there's things that I've seen or I've missed, and it's not that that content is less valuable or less appreciated than something we retweet on the main account. It's just that sometimes with the algorithm and sometimes with the time of day, just don't have eyes on everything, right? So something else that I'm really pushing on within the team is a curation platform, right? It could start as simple as something on Reddit, but my ideal world is bringing something to the website that's just what I call the Hall of Heroes, right? Where it's just everyone that's contributed, everyone that's made a piece of content will live forever on the website, right? And obviously, things that take time like that, because that's a whole product in itself. But I think it could start simply, and start on a place like Reddit. Sizzle's working on a cool activation too, called the Crew Gazette. But and essentially, we want to make a little magazine that essentially highlights pieces of maybe from the community, events that happen, but things like that as well. It takes time to make the design of the art, so that's really what we're working towards. And again, we're not perfect. We're doing the best we can with what we have, but when we go in the course of 2 or 3 years, like I can't wait to look back at something like the Hall of Heroes and be like, damn, like this is everything the community has made, and each time a new foundation of the lore and the IP is launched that inspires and sparks creativity, like it just adds on to that. And when we look back in history of the Everai journey, being able to have that all in one place is something I'm personally super excited for, because it is the hardest part, for sure. Like on Twitter, even me, I don't know what they did, but I see a lot of stuff like missing just from my friends. I'm like, what happened? Like, I don't want to see half this stuff sometimes, So it's just like I can't imagine the stuff that I've missed. And again, it kind of makes me, a little sad that I'm not able to see everything. I wish I could be scrolling 24/7, So that's why I think the curation is really one of the big things I would advise to other project founder owners, and think about that early. Like I wish that's something I thought about months ago, the Hall of Heroes thing, but it's only something that came out in the last few months. And the result was because I was just like, yo, like I'm missing out on some stuff from the community, and it's and again, I don't ever want to make someone feel that their efforts were for nothing, right? And or feel like less appreciated, because I appreciate every piece of content, whether it's a dedicated fan art, or whether even it's just someone writing their version of a storyline. It could be the biggest thing, it could be the smallest thing, but whenever someone creates in the community, I'm always just so honored, because in a way, it's just like it's crazy to see that your work inspires other people to create. And that's really like the goal and the vision of Everai, is to create this expansive universe that inspires creators from all over, like you said, all around the world, right? And it's so cool. Everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has a different background. Everyone has a different interpretation. But to see that manifested into something that we all share together, which is Everai, to me, that's just beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, that was an amazing response, and it's it's cool too because like there's a lot of I don't know too if you're doing a lot of ways with like long form content, like extracting multiple short form content from that long form, like videos and stuff. You can make that break those up into like mini posts and do all those things, right? There's a lot of ways you can do it, and then also empowering the community too. Like there's so many different aspects of it. And that's like like you said, it's like the hardest part is because this space moves so fast. It's like, okay, what is the next thing I got to do? Okay, what is the next thing? Like you're always jumping on and trying to basically one up yourself every single day. I think that's what is like the coolest part about being in this space too is you're always trying to be a better version of yourself the next day, right? Even as a founder, like you're always challenging yourself and looking for the next thing to do to really empower you and to be like, hey, like I'm competing with myself, right? Like you said it yourself, like looking at other people and comparing yourself to other people, it can take over your mindset. And if you can kind of take a step back and be like, no what, I'm competing with myself this time. Like screw everyone else. Like this is me who I'm competing with. That's where it all comes from. So yeah, I mean, again, all power to you.